Hey everybody, welcome to another weekly wellness update. You can see the weather is beautiful right now, so I'm back out on the porch. Hopefully for my wellness updates, I'll be able to be outside more like I was last year before the winter. I'm so excited for warm weather. Let me tell you what, I am so excited for warm weather. Okay, so this video, this wellness update is a little different than my previous ones. And I explained what was going to be happening in a recent wellness update. So if you haven't seen that, I will put it up in the cards just to understand a little bit more context. But I am currently going through a coaching program with Jonathan Shane of the Keto Road. And he's going to help me try to get to the bottom of some of my health issues, try to help me become an active person in a healthy way. I started exercising probably like 4 or 5 months ago now, and I've been exercising consistently and, putting in the hard work. But unfortunately, I've seen a lot of health markers actually go down, like things that should be getting better with exercise are getting worse. And so I'm trying to figure out how to live an active lifestyle and do it also in a healthy way. A lot of the time we think that just eating healthy or just, doing the exercise, putting the work in, everything's gonna turn out just right. And sometimes it can be a little more tricky than that. So he's gonna be helping me with my exercise, with my nutrition, trying to help me with my iron issues. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been struggling with trying to keep my iron status at a healthy level. So he's going to be helping me with that. And as you'll hear a little bit later in the video, he has some unique ideas about it, things that I have not explored yet. So I'm really excited about his insights and, maybe getting to the bottom of these issues. So the rest of this video is going to be our coaching session. So this is our first coaching call. So the first part, he's going over like the coaching software. And I did leave some of that in because I thought it might be interesting for those of you that, are considering coaching, just to kind of get a behind the scenes peek into all of the details. And then we go over like my initial macros and the iron stuff, like I mentioned, and just our initial call getting started. But before we get into the footage of the actual call, I wanted to also let you know that Jonathan has just reformulated and re-released his Energized Reds recovery formula. I've talked about this a bunch of times, as well as his pre-workout formula. I love both of them. Fantastic stuff. So he just redesigned the Energized Reds and a few of the changes in the new formulation. First off, they just redesigned the label and to make it, more consistent, has the new logo, all of that. Another thing is that he took out the algae. If you guys tried the original formula, you know that there was some stuff that would settle to the bottom. And if you're aware of it, it's no big deal because you can kind of swirl as you're drinking. If you're not aware of it and you take that last big drink, woo, you get a mouthful of algae, which is not great. So he took that out. And then another change that he made was exchanging Korean matcha for the green tea extract that was in there. And that was just because the Korean matcha has a higher antioxidant amount. He also added all of the electrolytes you need. So if you're drinking this as a recovery formula, you don't have to double up with electrolytes also. So that's amazing. And then the last thing he added was some probiotics just to help with digestion and gut health. So if you are looking for a recovery formula, I definitely recommend the Energized Reds. I will have a link down below as well as a coupon code that will get you a little discount.
All right, let's get into it. How are you doing today, by the way?
I'm doing well. Doing well. I had my live stream with Lindsay this morning and all good. Always, always puts me in a good mood.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know. Y'all are a joy to watch on there. I like that y'all do that every week too. I'm sure people get a kick out of it.
It's fun. Yeah.
It's good. All right, so first we're going to go through, like I said, you're doing the metabolic health program. So we're going to go through first just how the coaching works so that you have an understanding of that. And then we'll go into some more of the nuances of your program specifically. Okay. So like I said before, I have a texting coaching line where if you need to contact me for anything, you do have access to that. But we have weekly calls where we do the main checkup and we kind of go through all the information there. As far as that, everything else is consolidated to a platform called UpCoach, where you have a personal portal. And I try to make it as there's a lot that goes in the background. Like I'm editing spreadsheets on Google Drive and but everything for you is usually it's just consolidated to like that page. And so let me share that with you real quick so that you can get an idea of what that looks like. All right, so over here to the left, you're going to see a bunch of initials. These are just all my clients. You won't see these. You'll just see yours. So the NO, which is the Nili one-on-one coaching. So when you click on that, it'll take you to your program page, okay? So everything that you need is in this portal. you have your first tab, which is your meeting notes. And that's basically like if we go over something that you want to remember later, or maybe there's a protocol I want you to do if we're dealing with like stress management, morning routines, sleep routines, workout routines, nutrition specifics, like things that you just want to be able to go back and go, what did you say? We'll type those out here and I'll just date them. And so you can go to the date of our last call and you can open it up and read everything. It'll be all there for you.
Okay.
Okay. Second one's your Google Sheet. So I haven't set up macros yet. We're going to talk about why. I have some more questions for you. But you just have to come here. Everything's here. If you want to know the ratios of your macros, it's all put there for you. So you can kind of see like the ratios of the macros, your fats, proteins, and carbs, all that jazz. Next is your habits. So this is kind of like where we're going to be tracking your habits and stuff. So this shows me, but when you log in, it'll show you. But basically, so for example, let's say run. So I'll put that there, and all you'll do is you'll just go in and check it. You'll just check it if you ran or leave it blank if you didn't. And the reason that's cool is let's say that you checked like 3, you leave 3 blank. Well, I can go here and it just plots it for me. So it lets me see like how often you've ran, how often you did. It just basically puts everything on a thing that we can follow in terms of like metrics and stuff.
Okay.
You'll be following. So I'll have a couple habits. You're going to be your runs, your workouts, your sleep, whether it was good or bad, check if good, minus if bad. I always tell people just gauge it on how rested you feel. If you woke up multiple times in the night and you're tired and groggy in the morning, that's a bad night of sleep. If you wake up and you feel good, it's a good night of sleep. If we need to get more granular than that, like start putting sleep cores and stuff, we can. But you're going to learn. I'm more of a minimalist. Like the least I have to do to get you to your end goal, the better, simply because it allows you to make it sustainable. Right. The less you have to do, the more sustainable it can be. But we'll do run, workouts, sleep. We'll track your cycle. So I'll just put a numeric value and you'll just put you're on days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. Okay. You start, go back to 1, etc. And that'll plot that for us. And so what'll be cool is over the next 3 months, we can start to see trends. Like on day 18 to 21, your sleep sucks. You don't feel like running, right? Your water intake gets low. Like your bowel, we'll check your bowel movements here too. Not anything other than just if you had one or not that day. But we'll be able to see that, right? Because like, for example, when progesterone gets higher and estrogen goes lower in the luteal phase, your muscles aren't as elastic. This also involves the muscle lining in your colon. So women tend to have less bowel movements in during their luteal phase than their follicular phase. And so like we can track things like that so that we can kind of connect dots and get a better overall idea of what your body's doing.
Okay.
Okay. As far as your food journal, this is just if you want to upload like foods that you're curious about, or most of the time I just have my clients text me like a screenshot of their food for that day, but you can easily just upload it here instead. You just get on your computer, send the photo to your email or something, and then just click and drag the file.
Okay. I used to use Card Manager. So
yeah, you just screenshot it and then just click and drag it here, and then on our weekly call, we'll jump on here and we'll go through it.
Okay.
Okay. And then you have your program photos. So this is like before and after progress photos. If you want to do this to like see if like you're developing well in terms of muscle or like bloat or like anything that you're worried about that way, we can do progress photos. You don't have to. Okay. I always tell my clients, whatever you're comfortable with, I just generally encourage the same outfit. So like if you just want to do like shorts and a loose shirt or shorts and a sports bra, whichever one makes you more comfortable, completely confidential, but whatever makes you comfortable, just make sure it's the same thing so that we can see changes, because sometimes they change shorts or whatever and they're like, oh, my hip, my lower back didn't go smaller. And I'm like, literally those shorts are obviously tighter than the ones you wore 4 weeks ago. So that's all I ask, just that you're consistent with it. But and I know that right now we're not really focused on body composition per se. I know it's like one of like the long-term goals if possible, but bonus. Bonus. So like you could upload like beginning photos and then you don't have to take any until the last. Like we don't have to do that consistently. Okay. So that's completely up to you. Sure. It's just another metric. And then as far as, I don't know why it says Keto Camp on there, but anyways, this is your Calendly for scheduling your calls every week. Okay. So any client that gets on here, it's all embedded. So they just click this and then my availability is there and they just click a time and they sign up. So it's all in here, all in one, all consolidated to this for you.
Perfect.
Okay. Any questions on any of this?
I don't think so.
Awesome.
No.
That was easy. Cool. All right. So I'm not done. I'm going to share my screen with you more, but I kind of wanted to basically give you where I'm coming from. Right. So a couple things we're working on. We're working on good energy. We want you to be able to run your 10K freely. We want you to make sure, again, like your iron levels are where they need to be, that you're balanced hormonally, all that jazz. And so a lot of this is focused on those things. Short, long-term goals that we talked about is, possible weight loss, better body composition, things like that, which I do believe will come and can come. So we talked about before with your iron levels, and to be honest, before I had ever given you advice or heard your story, what you're wrestling with, iron absorption and efficiency or deficiencies is not my forte at all. Very much like more metabolic health hormones. But as I started to look into things, because I was curious, because I was listening to what you were doing, I started to become a little bit more understand it a little better, and it made me start doing some really deep dives. And I found some really interesting things that I think are gonna blow your mind a little bit.
I'm excited.
Okay, so a couple things to look at is, I know that due to some of the not the cofactors, but the byproducts of sex hormone production, that they impact not only our absorption, but also our retention of different minerals and micronutrients in our body, and metals as well. And so the first thing I always go to, because I'm a metabolic specialist, is sex hormones, which is why, I asked you to run that blood lab panel. And I'm glad I did, because I do think there's some things there, which we'll get into why I think that in a second. But so some things that we're going to be looking at is like progesterone and estrogen balance, how that impacts your iron absorption and retention. And then some other things that I found in your initial assessment that you took. Okay. So we're going to look at your initial assessment right now. Kind of walk you through what that looks like.
So for the viewers that are watching, the initial assessment, that's the thing where I answered like 1,000 questions, right?
Yes, this is 1,000 questions, but the good thing is that for me, I don't have to look at all those. It just puts it on the graph for me. So it makes it super simple for my side of things.
Yeah, so I answered 1,000 questions, and then it spits out information of like what to focus on, right?
So what it does is it shows me different areas of your body or functions or systems where there are deficiencies or symptoms of issues. And it kind of consolidates them to certain specific things like your heart, your gut, your small intestines, your large intestines, your HIPAA axis, which is your hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals, which is basically just your stress hormone system, or your HPG, which is your sex hormone system. So it kind of consolidates those things so that I get a better idea. Okay, where should I look? And to be fair too, and we'll talk about this, some of these things overlap. And so there can be correlations to other things. And so it's just kind of like seeing what the initial assessment gives us, going based off of your symptoms and things you're experiencing, and then bringing it all together, coming up with a plan, applying it, seeing how it works, and then tweaking it along the way. All right, so here we are. We are in the graph portion. So good thing is you've talked to me about your gut and what you've worked on. And the great thing is that you look really good. Low priority, almost no symptoms. It definitely shows in the analysis that you have worked really hard on your gut and you've reaped the rewards of that. So good job on that. I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I know that's a lot of work. Yeah, it was a lot of work. So I want to acknowledge that. I think that's really important. However, some of the things that we need to work on is your endocrine system. Funny, we brought that up before. Your adrenals, there's definitely some things there, and we can go back into your questions and kind of look at and split the hairs on that, so to speak, about what could be going on. Thyroid, adrenals, your cardio, your heart, definitely related to your adrenals, because norepinephrine, epinephrine, cortisol, corticosteroids, all of those impact heart rate. They impact heart, they can elevate your heart rate if your adrenals are getting overstressed. So for example, if there are thyroid and adrenal issues and you're running, it can cause lack of recovery and also cause extra corticosteroids to be produced, which wears out the adrenals, which stresses you out, which causes elevated heart rate. Again, correlation. I know I'm talking fast. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. And I can always go back and watch it again. That's the great thing about a recording.
Great thing about a recording. And so we're just realizing my point in saying all those words is it's all connected. Yeah. And so that could have explained your resting heart rate. It could have just been too much at the time because your adrenals and thyroid weren't being properly supported for the stress you were taking on.
Right.
And so this can happen a lot. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so it's tricky for me trying to figure out what to do, because I know that fast heart rate and pounding heart is a symptom of iron deficiency also. So it's really hard to pick out what is it? Is it all connected, or is it all of the things, or is it just one of the things? So yeah.
It's 100% all connected. The real question is going to be is what is the root cause? And there's two ways to go about doing that. It's taking a guess on the root cause and or supporting all of the symptoms and seeing if it goes away completely or if those things go away and there's just one glaring issue.
Sure. Okay.
Right. Now, if I were to get on this and there was all of this was low priority, like all of it was low priority, then I would be like, oh, okay, we just have something's wrong with your iron. Like there's no explanation. But the thing is that you do have things that are medium and almost high priority. And so there's symptom chasing that we can do here to overall address the root cause. And what's really important too to understand is that we don't want to chase the symptom. I know I just said symptom chasing in terms of supplementation and supporting your body, but we don't want to chase the symptom. We want to find the root cause from your environment or the way that you've been handling your nutrition or your activity or whatever. And then we want to address that so that the symptoms resolve themselves. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally.
Okay. So we're looking at your endocrine system, which doesn't surprise me. And then your heart, which I think is just an offshoot of that. And everything else is great. Your mood, your immune system, in terms of like circulation, all that's great too. Where it starts to get really interesting is your CNS and brain, which this could be stress. This can be endocrine related. It's very much endocrine related in terms of adrenals, right? If your pituitary is feeling stressed, right? And that's affecting neurotransmitters, which is affecting your mood, which your mood seems to be good. But overall, like there can be stress on the brain just due to those kinds of things. And again, we can go look at that and see what happens there. This is where things get super interesting for you, though. Your premenstrual balance and your estrogen progesterone decline are in medium, almost high priorities.
Okay.
Which, you know, when I first heard about the iron thing, I took a real shot in the dark there. And, you know, because it's just my habit to say sex hormones. But I found it super interesting when I opened this up and this was showing, especially when all of your medium to high priorities are hormone endocrine function related. All of these, your brain, your endocrine, your adrenals, the estrogen progesterone decline, that is all endocrine system. That's all part of the same system. Okay.
So let's work on that.
Yeah. So let's work on that. So this is where things get interesting. Okay. Now I'm going to show you two studies and I know I've studied with you before, but this one is super important. So this is a study that was looking at sex hormones in relation to iron deficiencies. And oftentimes when you read a study, if you're like looking at any kind of mineral, it's actually any kind of study, due to the fact that women on a 30-day cycle, they tend to not be used for different kinds of studies because it costs more money, because to really understand, you would have to look at them over the course of a 30-day to 60-day period. So they tend to use men because it's easier to track what's going on. The discrepancy and the disservice in that is that sometimes that can be applied to women. Most of the time it can. But when it comes to nuanced stuff, it's not fair to y'all because you're not being looked at. You're not being observed in a way that allows them to get a proper measure. So in fact, here in this study, it says, consequently, few guidelines provide nuanced recommendations about how to manage iron status in actively premenopausal females. Furthermore, only 2 investigations that have measured changes in the activity of master iron regulation hormone, hepcidin, throughout the menstrual cycle. 2 in the entire world. 2.
Wow.
Right?
Iron deficiency is so rampant, especially among women. It's a huge, huge thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So realizing that up front is super important, that there's a lot of nuance to this, right? Nuanced recommendations, but it's nuanced because women are so different, cycles are so different, and there's just not a lot of literature for y'all on it. Yeah. Now, that being said, let's jump to this other study that I just want to show this little bit. So in the earlier study, there's a word there called hepcidin, right? Also known as Hep C. So Hep C hormone regulation occurs through many different stimuli, including iron status, increased inflammation, hypoxia, and sex hormones, among others. So what this study was looking at was progesterone and estrogen declines and how they affected Hep C. Hep C is what allows you to retain iron in your blood. Right. There is a strong causation of progesterone and estrogen imbalance and lack of Hep C in your system, which can directly impact, it does directly impact your ability to retain iron.
Now, okay, so in my research of iron, I was under the impression that hepcidin blocked iron absorption.
Maybe I said that backwards. So because Hep C is stimulated by hormone regulation.
Okay.
And so I'm sorry. Yeah. So progesterone is too low. Hep C goes up.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes. Yeah, because there's all these strategies about supplementing in the morning because Hep C is lower than in the evening and all this stuff. So you're always like trying to, and I wondered about that. Like, do I just have some weird thing going on where I have way too much of it or it's overstimulated? So
Yeah, that's my fault.
fascinating.
So
Yeah.
I said that backwards.
Yeah, no
Good
worries.
catch. Good catch. It's a lot of information going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so basically estrogen and progesterone have a very strong impact on Hep C levels. So
Okay.
your sex hormones directly impact your iron absorption and retention,
Wow. Okay.
right? And the reason why that's important is because of this. Because you have estrogen, progesterone, signs of estrogen, progesterone decline, and endocrine system issues based off the symptoms. We
Yeah.
will know more once you get your blood labs. Once you get your blood labs, so that's the thing. We can look at the symptoms and we can talk about some of the issues you're having and theorize root cause. And we'll even talk before we leave here about like nutrition, like things we can do nutritionally for right now.
Yeah.
But until we get the blood labs back, we're not shooting in the dark, but there's just a lot of theory. And the blood labs are going to give us much more concrete evidence of what's going on.
Sure.
But so based off your assessment, it does not surprise me that your iron is low.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that's why I also think, so I don't think that you just feel tired and your heart rate's just high because of iron that's low. I think that the iron being low is actually a symptom. It's not the root cause.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, because sometimes people think it's just like the root cause, like, oh, I'm tired because my iron's low. It's like, no,
Right.
you're tired, your iron's low because.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's some hormone imbalances going on.
Okay.
Now this could be due, again, like the cortisol and like all the things, like checking all those in the blood labs. Right. This could be just supporting your adrenals and thyroid and everything else corrects itself. Could require some hormone supplementation. I tried to avoid that at all costs, even though I have plenty of clients on bioidenticals. There's nothing wrong with it if you need to do it. But obviously if we want to do a more natural route, especially while you're young, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're showing signs of like premenstrual imbalance, and you're not even more close to being in perimenopause. Right. So, but it's something to address. And so we'll have more answers when the blood labs come in, but that's basically where, and I can send you those studies if you want to see them.
Sure. Yeah. And because I can link them in the description of the video.
In the description of the video. Any questions on any of that?
I don't think so, but that is very interesting. Because like you said, we got to find the root cause. And that's what I've been trying to do for almost 2 years now. And I was thinking root cause, gut health. So I went down that road and I got lots of benefit from it, but it doesn't seem like it's the root cause of the iron deficiency. So, and I have not looked into sex hormone stuff at all. So that's very interesting. And in all my looking and studying and listening to other people, it's like I've not heard that talked about. So that is really interesting.
Yeah, and what's something to think about too, just because like again, I like to be open-minded and unbiased, is generally if hormones are the issue, the root cause is usually it can be perimenopause, premenopause, right? There could be ovaries could be shutting down early, that can happen. It can be, or it's your adrenal gland. Right, your adrenals are overstressed. So, for example, if you have a high-stress job or high stress environment, or you had that in your body, you just haven't really been able to support it enough to recover, that could be root cause. Or your pituitary hypothalamus could, something going on with your brain could be. And when I say something wrong with your brain, I don't mean like some kind of like dementia or anything, but just like there's a discrepancy there.
Sure.
Those three things tend to be the root causes. However, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we have to start looking into things like parasites or mold or SIRS, right? Those conversations do come up. I don't like going there yet, mainly because there's no definitive sign. Like it's easy for someone that has SIRS or has mold toxicity to see symptoms like this and go, oh, you must have mold. And it's like, no, I mean, you have mold and you have these symptoms, but someone that has these symptoms doesn't necessarily have mold. And you could do a mold detox and not fix anything. So it's really important to like try to deal with this first. And if it doesn't correct itself, then go, okay, maybe there's something else going on. I need to do a deeper dive.
Sure.
Only go as deep as you need to go. People
Yeah.
go way deeper than they need to go.
It's easy. It's easy in this community to go too deep in all kinds of areas.
I know. I've talked to people that have like high TSH, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have cancer on my thyroid," and I'm like, "What? Like, how did you get there?" And
Yeah.
like WebMD and Google, and I'm like, "That's terrible."
No. Yeah, don't Google your symptoms. You'll
No,
always find out you're dying.
Dr. Google has a dark sense of humor.
Yeah, terrible bedside manner.
Terrible bedside manner. Okay, so next I want to kind of get into. I know we talked about this a little bit, but here lately, like in the past week or two, what have you been eating? Have you been tracking or not? And then what does your physical activity look like?
Yeah, so I have tracked a little bit, and I was supposed to put in 2 days of eating on the form, and I actually tracked it, and I just never went back and like put it in there. I feel like my appetite has just increased a lot recently, and I feel like it's hormonal. But I've been eating around like 23 to 2,500 calories, and that's just to hunger. I don't like try to control it, or at least I haven't to this point. My macros, kind of like that. So I'm eating. Let's see. This was an exercise day, so I had a little bit higher carb, and then on the non-exercise days, sometimes I'm as low as like 40 carbs.
And what do your carbs mostly consist of?
I've been doing fruit mostly and occasional starch. I was doing some squash, but it was flaring my rosacea, which was weird. So I stopped doing that. And then just more vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah, carrots, stuff like that.
And then your proteins, what, mainly beef or?
It's a variety. I do, I'll do keto chow shakes or the Equip protein powders, and then I also do beef and chicken and pork. Like it's a big variety.
Okay. And then do you add fats? What kind of fats do you add to your meals?
So I'll have like, decaf coffee with cream. So that, some dairy fat. I will have cheese. So that definitely adds fat. And then, like on here, I had a steak with blue cheese and some chimichurri sauce that had olive oil.
Olive oil. Okay.
So
no, it's good. I like that. Okay. So.
And butter. If I have a keto chow, I'll have butter.
All right. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the bad news, not the good news. Okay. Bad news is for the first 30 days, I'm going to have you take, except for cream in your coffee, I want you to take dairy out of your diet.
I've been feeling like I needed to do that. So that's a good confirmation.
Well, and the reason being is, huh?
Did you say except butter or including butter?
Oh, except cream. You can, because I know it's very little, but I don't want you to do butter either. You can do ghee because the milk proteins are removed, but I don't want, and the reason being is, it's just an inflammatory compound. It really is. Like people don't like to talk about that, but dairy is inflammatory.
I know from personal experience.
Yeah.
It's so delicious.
It's a good protein source, but then it's not, because like its protein density per ratio compared to the animal that gave you it is like they're not even close. They're like, it's not even close, right? Like 4 ounces of cheese. Yeah. It gives you like 18 grams of protein, but like it bloats you. It gives you a lot of unnecessary lactose. It's just not as nutrient dense as the meat it comes from. But yeah, so for those reasons, I like to take it out and then see how your body responds, see if it feels good without it, and then bring it back in.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. I'm down for that. It'll be a challenge. I
got you. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So as far as your macros go, how tall are you? Remember how tall you are?
5'5".
5'5". Okay. Yeah. 5'5". So I want you to bring your protein down to 140 grams.
Okay.
So we're going to be shooting for like lean, skeletal, ideal body weight, like not like ideal in terms of, you want to shoot for about 1 gram per ideal pound of body weight, especially at first, because sometimes just excess protein, there's no point in it. We're just used to eating really high protein.
Yeah.
We might increase that depending on how your recovery is going with your workouts and your runs and things like that. But for right now, I want to try and keep it around 140 grams.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. As far as your fat, 140 grams is fine.
So 1-to-1.
Yeah, 1-to-1's fine. Except for on your workout day. So this is where things are going to get a little different. Okay. I'm really big on energy balance, right? Like I think, and this is a very controversial statement right here. I don't think that high carb necessarily makes people overweight and unhealthy. I think there's plenty of athletes out there that can argue that, right? Literally go look at all, whatever. I think it's high fat, high carb, and it's the addictive funnel cake. It's the addictive ice cream because it does have refined sugars that make us addicted to it, but it's also just like the high fat and high carb. It's just too much energy.
Totally.
There's no energy balance. So on higher carb days, I'm really big on a little bit lower fat, not crazy low, because we don't want to inhibit sex hormone production or anything like that. So on your training days, I want you to try and shoot for like 85 grams of carbs. So the reason being is in all of my working with clients, I tend to find that like between 50 and 80 grams of carbs is kind of what I call like the limbo stage. It's like the Bermuda Triangle of carbohydrates. Like no one knows what's going on. Your body doesn't know what's going on. Like under 50, it's very clear. Okay, this is like ketogenic, and then like over 80, I tend to see a better response in terms of what we're trying to do by like suppressing cortisol, supporting your adrenal glands, helping with, I know we talked about like carbs and fruit with iron absorption and stuff, but
Yes.
there's like a weird like 30 to 40 gram range where like nothing's happening. Your body's like, okay, I have more carbs, but it's not enough to do anything, but it's not like low enough to like really sit. Like, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, to really like get into ketosis.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So on those days, I want to see like 85 grams of carbs. You can even go up to 100, but a lot of people, the 3 digits makes them nervous. So you don't have to hit 100, but you can sit in there. And then I want to see the fat be under 120.
Okay.
Okay. And then on your,
and then on non-workout days for carbs, is it just as little as possible?
So yeah, under 50. I'm not super, like under 50, it's not going to do enough to. But what days are you working out right now?
It's kind of been random. So I have a class that I do that's like HIIT training and weights and stuff like that, and it's Tuesday, Thursday. So that's pretty consistent. Sometimes we'll have a Saturday class too. So it's usually at least 2 days a week of that. And then I've just been, so I was trying to run on other days whenever it kind of fit in. But when my heart rate went up and I was like, I need to tone it down, I just kind of cut that out and just did walking instead. So right now it's just been a couple of days a week, sometimes 3 days a week of the higher intensity, and then just more walking.
Okay. Is there any way that you would be able to fit in the running into the days you train?
On the same days? Yeah, I could do that.
Sure. You sure?
Yeah.
Because what I find is running, so working out is stressful and running is stressful. And both of them require, in women, not necessarily men and not all women, but women that need them, I find that they both require some kind of carb supplementation. The running more than the working out, but because the running's so stressful, it makes the working out more stressful than it would be without it in the week. And so they both kind of require more recovery. So what I see is like, if you don't do the running and lifting on the same day, you would need more days with higher carbs because you need to replenish that. But if you just do them on the same day and then you eat those higher carbs, you replenish glycogen, and then you take the next day completely off.
Okay.
It tends to be a better response.
Okay. Yeah, that seems doable.
All right. So your higher carb days are going to be Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, tentatively. I'm just going to put them on your macro sheet. If you want to change them or need to, just adjust your macros accordingly.
Okay.
For the next so the rest of this week and next week, your macros are on your spreadsheet. So you can go on Coach and look at that. You're going to be around 2,000 calories. So a little bit less than what you've been doing, but nothing crazy. Something to say too is like right now, it's really easy to come into these situations with like experience with clients and be like, I know exactly what we're doing. But it's like your body's different than other people's bodies.
Sure.
And so I always say that the first week or two is really me learning your body's language. I'm communicating it through macronutrients and food, and then it's responding to me. And I'm just learning how it talks, what it says, how it speaks, so that I can help fine tune things and make it feel better, as good as I can make it feel while we go through the process.
Yeah. Cool.
One more thing too, on your carbs, I want you to switch to mostly starches and vegetables.
Oh, okay.
I want you to work on the fruit a little bit, just because and we can argue about we're not going to argue, but I can argue with people about fructose all day because it's only in studies, and people don't like this, but in studies, it only shows that it creates fatty liver when it's in excess. As
Sure.
long as you're not in excess, it doesn't get stored because it gets used. So that's the thing, is like if you're not using a lot of it, then it's not. And fructose also, like, it turns more into triglycerides, which then converts into ketones. So there's a much longer conversion process than just having like a sweet potato or potato, or a resistant over day old rice or whatever you decide to do for your starch. That's going to have a much quicker response in terms of converting to glucose and then doing what we wanted to do hormonally and skeletal muscle wise. So it's just a better option. I have nothing against fruit. You can still have fruit, but I'm just like,
Focus on starches.
yeah, like 40, like on your higher carb days, 40 or 50 your carbs, let it come from potato, like sweet potato, white potato, something like that. You can do rice too. I just say always go organic, just to be wary. And and have it come from China, like somewhere from Asia. Don't get American rice. But yeah, so like make that adjustment there. As far as everything else, I don't want to tweak anything else because I haven't got your blood labs back. And so I might tweak some things like in terms of your fat choices and things like that if I need to, but that's where we'll start.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's enough to start with. I mean, just cutting out dairy is enough of a challenge.
Yeah, I don't want to give you too much. So just to recap, I know we just went over a lot of stuff, but just to recap what you need to worry about this week, because I know it's a lot of information. Let's just condense it to something that's easy to follow. Cut out dairy, 140 grams of protein, 140 grams of fat on rest days, 120 on training days, 85 grams of carbs on training days, less than 50 on rest days. That's all you need to worry about right now.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then once you get your, when do you think we're going to get your blood labs?
I am planning to get them done in a couple of weeks because I wanted to get them done at the same time as I get my iron done, which I couldn't do until 4 weeks after my infusion.
Okay.
And that was just 2 weeks ago. So.
Okay, I'm gonna look deeper into your and next week. We'll see how the food does, because like there are some supplements I want to add, but I want to see how your body responds to just food, and
Okay.
then we can add those supplements for your adrenal support and all of that. We can talk about that next week.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Any other questions?
Water intake. What's your suggestion on that? Do you have a? I mean, because some people are like just drink tons and tons, and others like just drink to thirst. What do you think?
100 to 120 ounces a day. You don't need to kill yourself, but you also don't want to like limit it.
Right. Okay.
So I say like 100 ounces a day.
Okay.
And sip, don't chug. I always like to talk about the intestinal tract is kind of like a 45-degree pole with holes in it. If you pour all the water through really fast, some of it will dribble through, but a lot of it's going to be dumped out the back end. Whereas if you sip, a lot less is going to come out the back and a lot more is going to dribble through the hole. So sip it over the day. Don't just like, if you just go home and like you're dehydrated all day and then you like chug a gallon of water before you go to bed. One, it's going to ruin your sleep. You're just going to be up all night. Two, it doesn't really fix the problem of dehydration during the day. So just sipping throughout the day is the best course of action.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Sweet. All right. Well, keep me updated and then we'll communicate, and then I will see you next week.
Yeah, awesome. This has been great.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Yep.